really sorry for the delay. I was just trying to figure this whole thing, where you can like show your screen while going live. Yeah, and yeah, there was some stupid mistakes, but okay, so I should be live now. Um, yes. I've sent you a link. Just let me know if that's the right link, because that's strange. I don't know. Okay, wait, there's a share. Okay. I'm gonna send you a different link. The quality is really bad from what I can see. Can you hear me? On like not on like on the phone, on the YouTube live. Is it the same pace or am I delayed? Okay, okay. Okay, we'll just go with it. We'll just roll with it. Um, okay, I'm just gonna put my laptop up and then um, I'll mute myself from the call so that you only hear me on the live. And if anything, you can just let me know. Yeah, you can like either comment or like just tell me, yeah. Okay, here goes nothing. Thank you, Deej. Hi, okay. Sorry for the delay in starting today, but I have prepared quite an exciting um, theme for our little outreach session. I thought that we could have a little fun while doing this because being in quarantine isn't fun. Right, so basically, I prepared a few questions and it's all pertaining to the topic um, of cooking. So, let's see if this works. Yeah, I think you can see this. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, we're gonna be talking about cooking. Um, I don't know about you guys, but staying at home for a very long time has made me very interested in cooking. Because I have the time to cook now. So I think that that might be the case with most of you out there as well. Um, and Deej, um, so if you see any questions like in the chat box, I can't see them. Just let me know because I have to look at the cooking stuff. Yeah, thank you. Right, yeah. So, got time to cook. Now let's just talk about cooking in general. When you cook, obviously you've got a few meals that you can cook, different meals to cook. Breakfast. Breakfast is personally my favorite meal of the day. It's not because it's cliched, not because of any reason other than waking up. I just look forward to breakfast. And there's so many different types of breakfast you can have as well. Like a sweet breakfast, pancakes, you can have cake, you can have cereal, you can have a savory breakfast. So the difference between sweet and savory is in the taste, like in the meal. Something sweet is obviously sweet, like desserts, cakes, ice cream is sweet. Savory meals are meals that are a little more on the salty, sour, umami. side of things. So they're just basically two opposites. So if a sweet breakfast would be pancakes with maple syrup, then the savory breakfast would be eggs and sausages and things like that. Just two opposite things. Lunch, can make lunch and dinner, and there's snacks in between. Some people are very interested in snacking. They have snacks in between meals. Other people don't feel the need to snack. I, I personally felt that while staying at home throughout this quarantine period, I've been snacking a lot more. Probably a lot more than is healthy, but that's all right. Okay, there's different types of food as well. So you have your starters, which can be simple things just to prep you for the main meal. So starters include salads, soups. You can have finger foods, so things like breadsticks. Just a simple, small meal before you have your main meal. And a main, as you know, the way it sounds, it's a main. So it's your main, sorry, main meal. For instance, if you had soup for a starter, your main could be steak or pasta or roasted chicken, and then you'd have a dessert. Now this is just a general outlook. It's not like the rules for food. Different cultures have different ways of eating and presenting food. So, in I'm Arab, I'm Iraqi, and when we have meals, we don't normally have a starter, a main. We will have the main, but we will have food accompanying the main. So we have finger foods or our starter foods with the main. So you could have, in where I'm from, we have like rice and some sort of stew. So maybe okra stew, bamia we call it, with kibba, which is basically round they're not patties, they're round fried rice cakes stuffed with meat. That would be your starter, but we just eat it all together because we're Arab like that. And then dessert. So where I'm from, in my household, where I grew up, dessert was a must. I have just been fine-tuned to want to eat something sweet right after a meal, and I feel like it's that way with most cultures as well. Having something sweet to cleanse the palate, I think, is normal. Meal prepping. Now, meal prepping is let me make this bigger. Yeah. Now, meal prepping is it's not something new, but it's more common now than it was before. And meal prepping is something I do. I still do, even though I'm not going to uni now. Just because, so basically, meal prepping is where you prepare food ahead of time just for ease and convenience. For example, today is Friday. So if I made lunch today, whatever I cook, I would cook enough for today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just put whatever I cook in different containers in the fridge, and I have lunch set for 3 days. I used to do this for uni because I didn't have time to cook all the time while studying. Coming back from uni, the last thing I wanted to do was cook. But with meal prepping, it's a lot easier because all you had to do was just take the food from the fridge and heat it in the microwave, and then that's it. Even though I'm not in uni now, because we're all on break, I still meal prep just because cooking, although I enjoy doing it personally, takes up a lot of time. And therefore, just being able to have a good meal ready really quick is very, very handy. Right. Okay, so the next part of cooking. So we've done the general stuff about cooking. So I have this little, I don't know if you can see it, let me check. Something like that. So we've done the general part. Now we're going to go to the recipe. So what is a recipe? Now, a recipe is basically something you obtain. This is what a recipe looks like. I got this from the Jamie Oliver website. So a recipe tells you what you need to make a certain meal, how you make it, how long it will take you to both prepare, so cut the vegetables or heat the oven, and how long it will take you to actually make the meal. how many servings. So a serving is how much food one person would take out of that meal. So if it says here, serve 6, that means with this amount of ingredients, with this amount of materials that you use to cook, you can make enough for 6 people to have tomato soup. Now let's go back up here. So you can get recipes, honestly, nowadays, online is the easiest way. You go on Google, you go on Yahoo, whatever you're using, and you type out anything you can think of, mac and cheese, roasted chicken, kebab, hummus, baba ganoush, like anything you can think of you want to make. Just search for a recipe online. That's the easiest way. And with YouTube as well, you've got a video of someone showing you how to make and prep the recipe. So online, the internet, YouTube, it's just the fastest, easiest way to get a recipe. Sorry. I promise I'm not ill. Cookbooks is a traditional way of getting a recipe. So you could go to a bookstore and you could browse the cooking section. You'll have lots of different books. So maybe cooking Middle Eastern food, cooking Asian food, cooking Italian food, different types of cookbooks by different authors that cater to a different type of cuisine. Or one of my favorite places to get a recipe is from families. So this is traditionally maybe in the family, your mother or father cooks very well and they're the ones who cook at home. You could get recipes off of them. You could get recipes from your grandparents. So sometimes you watch a movie and they'll say, oh, this recipe was passed down from my great-great-grandmother to her granddaughter to me, and it just goes on in the family. There's basically a lot of places you can get a recipe. Now, who comes up with these recipes? So traditionally, still generally, chefs and cooks, they tend to cook and they tend to come up with these recipes as well. But what is the difference between a chef and a cook? So a chef, the only real difference between the two is that a chef has professional experience in cooking. So it's not simply someone who has been cooking at home or enjoys cooking. It's also someone who went to cooking school, culinary school, and professionally learned the techniques of cooking. And that's basically what a chef is. A cook is just someone who knows how to cook, enjoys cooking. They both do, except they didn't go to professional school to learn how to cook. They just did that at home through experience. And personally, with in my opinion, with the rise of the internet and YouTube, it's so much easier to now show your passions on the internet and share it with other people. You don't have to go to cooking school to gain that experience anymore. You can just do it at home if you've cooked for long enough. You also have home cooks, so that's literally what I was just saying. People at home who enjoy cooking, who are good at it, without having gone to professional cooking school, they develop recipes at home and share them through YouTube, through Instagram, through their blogs. Lots of places you can get recipes. Now, this is what a recipe tells you, how long it takes to prep. So prepping includes chopping up the vegetables, heating up the oven if necessary, if you need to prepare your pan and oil it, things like that, and how long it takes to cook the meal as well. So when you're frying something, when you're baking something in the oven, so at least before you attempt a recipe, you have an idea of how long it will take you. Some recipes call for prepping a day before. So maybe when you want to make bread, you put in the flour and the oil and the yeast, the eggs. I don't know how to make bread. You'll make the dough, and then they will say, oh, let the dough rest overnight. So just cover it in plastic and leave it on your kitchen counter overnight, for example. So that means you need to let the dough rise and rest overnight, and only the next day is when you can bake it. So it's really important to check the prep and cook time for a recipe in case you're ready to cook, but it calls for a few hours of waiting. How many servings? So we went through that. A serving is basically the portions a person can have from the meal, what ingredients you'll need, what are the steps when cooking, because there's different ways to cook something. You can boil it, put it in a pot, water, some salt, boil it. You can grill it. I actually have images I can show you. So let me show you. There we go. Okay, let me close this. So this is basically grilling. You could grill obviously outside like this, or you could just grill at home with one of these little thingies. But that's grilling. You have other techniques such as frying. Love frying. Get a pan, deep pan, a lot of oil in it, hot oil, frying potatoes. You can fry banana fritters. You can fry a lot of things. And frying, although very unhealthy, is probably one of the best ways to prepare something, I would say. Baking is a technique where you would cook the item that you're trying to cook in the oven. And a little bit later, I'll go through the differences between cooking and baking something. Steaming is a very interesting way of cooking things. I like steaming my food. So you can use one of these tools. This is, I think, very easy to look at. But basically, you've got a pot of hot water and you've got a little holder or bowl that has holes in it to allow the steam from the boiling hot water to cook the food. Now, this is a very healthy way of cooking food, but it's also a very fun way to cook food because it doesn't take a lot of effort. There's no smell of frying or grilling, and you can make so many different types of things with this method of cooking. Right. Great. And then also in a recipe, in the instructions of how to cook, it teaches you when you should add certain ingredients. So maybe when you're stir frying something, they'll say, okay, let the oil heat and then sweat the onions first and then add the carrots. For example, in this recipe, peel this and slice the carrots, okay, all that good stuff. Heat 2 tablespoons and then add all the ingredients, cook, and then crumble the stock in a jug, and then later add the stock into the pot. So there's like different times when you add different components of the meal. Great. So this is all about a recipe, and this was an example of a recipe. Now, the next part of cooking, the most important part of cooking are the ingredients. There, the ingredients. I hope this is working. Okay, so what are ingredients? Ingredients, they're basically the basic materials, literally the items you need when cooking. For example, here, when you're making a pasta dish, you would need pasta. Any type of pasta. You want to use long angel hair spaghetti, you could use elbows, macaronis, water, salt, butter, if you're keen on using butter, tomato sauce, some spices, some garlic maybe. It depends on you, obviously. Maybe you want to use olive oil instead of butter, but these are the ingredients when you want to make a pasta dish with tomato sauce. Another example is when baking a cake. You would need flour, oil. I say flour. Some people say flour. Oil, eggs, milk, sugar. So when you look up ingredients on Google, you basically have this. And this is literally ingredients. This is ingredients when you're cooking savory meals. Look at all the spices. Spices are an important part of cooking. You also have the ingredients for when you're baking. So flour, sugar, what's this? Vanilla, butter, milk, baking powder. Yeah, just the main materials you need when you're cooking something. No one has any questions yet? Yeah. Okay. Next, a very important part of cooking as well are the utensils or the equipment that you use. I've got them here as 2 separate things. The utensils and the equipment. Okay, so what are the utensils or equipment? They're the items, the tools that you use to help you when you're cooking. For instance, if I was making eggs in the morning, and I don't like to fry my eggs just like that, just crack it and fry it. I like them scrambled, so I'll take 2 eggs and then I'll use a fork to just whip them up and then scramble them. So literally, again, when you Google this image, anything you can think of that you would use when cooking. There's so many different types of things. A lot of them which are unnecessary, in my opinion. Like, I don't have a garlic crusher. I just crush them with a knife. But you've got cheese grater, you've got tongs, you've got different types of spoons, you've got a whisk. Like that's an image of a whisk. There, yeah. So there's different types of utensils that you can use to help you. With more professional chefs and cooks, people who are a bit more experienced, they would tend to use different utensils. So for example, a baker who makes cakes might use an offset knife. This is not what I meant. Not an offset knife, an offset spatula. Yes, sorry. An offset spatula, something like this, to spread the cream. So once you've got your cake baked, and you add the icing or the cream on top of it, you could use an offset spatula to just spread it around the cake. But this isn't something that we all own. I don't own this item, nor do I need it because I don't make cakes with cream that often or at all. So obviously different levels of cooks and bakers will have different types of utensils. But these are just some that I thought most of us would have at home. So you have a spoon, fork, a whisk, maybe, I don't have a whisk, like a wooden spoon that you could use to just fry things, cook things. The wooden spoon is really, really handy. Having a knife and a chopping board, measuring cups, or you could just use the cups you have at home to measure. A bowl for mixing things, a baking tray or a baking sheet to bake. Not only cakes, honestly, you can bake lasagnas in the oven, a cake pan for your cakes, a frying pan, a pot. But not forgetting the bigger types of equipment that you need when cooking. You can't cook without a source of heat. Or can you? Or can you cook without a source of heat? This is an interesting question. Right, okay, so you need an oven to bake and a stove to cook. So an oven, basically, really fancy ovens here, but yeah. So what an oven does is it circulates dry heat around the food, and that's literally the difference between baking and cooking, which I will touch in a bit. Whereas a stove looks just like that. Now this was the traditional stove. This was what we all know and love. My mother, when she had to switch from a gas stove to an electric conduction stove, like this one, she didn't like that at all. But this is now what most of us will have at home. It's because it doesn't use gas anymore, and so these ones would traditionally use gas. But yeah, you need a stove to cook, or an oven, or both. Now, baking. So the difference again between cooking and baking something is with cooking on a stove, you use direct heat on the item. So like you're directly heating the oil to fry something, or you're directly heating the pot before you cook something. With an oven, you basically have the item inside the oven, your meal, whatever it is you're cooking, and it circulates dry heat around it, surrounding it. So a lot of people in cooking will say that cooking is an art because you can choose different heat levels, you can include things as you're cooking, but with baking, it's more of a science. For example, if you're baking cookies, a different temperature, 2 or 3 or 4 degrees difference, makes a difference in the cookies. Whether you bake the cookies high up in the oven or low makes a difference. Whether you're baking the cookies with both top and bottom levels of heat on, it just makes a difference, yeah. You bake them for too long, you risk burning it, and there really is no going back from that. Whereas with cooking, you have more control because you are cooking as it happens. It's a present continuous thing. You are cooking something and you can change things as you go along. Just checking that no one has questions. Yeah. Now I've prepared a little bit of an exercise for us to do. that involves a few of the units that Bishoy went through last weekend in the grammar class. So we're going to go through a few of them. Jane is turning 25 tomorrow, so it's her birthday tomorrow. To celebrate, she has decided to throw a party and invite a few of her friends over. This probably happened before Corona and quarantine. Her friends, Mia and Adam, have decided to help her with cooking the food for the party. Jane has prepared a simple menu for the event. Now, a menu, we all know what a menu is. Basically, it's literally just like a booklet or a piece of paper that contains the meals for the food for the meals that you're having. So this is her menu for her event. Starters will be tomato soup and a salad. Main will be pasta with tomato sauce. Usually, now this depends on the different restaurants that you go to, but usually a bracket with V could mean that the item here is vegetarian or vegan. Sometimes you'll have GF, which means gluten-free. I'm not a scientist in food, but the gluten is basically a substance found in wheat products. So our traditional bread, I'm pretty sure rice has gluten, and it's found in a lot of different pre-packaged food as well. So sometimes crisps will have them, cookies will have them, cakes will have them because they have flour. Gluten-free means it doesn't include gluten. Some people are allergic to gluten and they get digestive issues or they get rashes when they ingest gluten or too much gluten. So gluten-free, or some things can be, so this can mean maybe vegetarian. Now, vegetarian, when an item is called vegetarian, generally it means that it doesn't contain any source of meat, no meat, but it may contain milk and eggs still. I'm pretty sure eggs are still considered vegetarian. I could be wrong though. I'm probably wrong. But yeah, vegetarian just means there's no meat in it. Yeah. Vegan, so we'll just put V. When something's vegan, it contains absolutely no animal products at all. No dairy, so no milk, no cheese that's derived from milk, no eggs, no meat. Nothing. Vegan is just like pure plant-based. Everything is derived from plants. Now, a lot of people are going vegan, and one of the main reasons, there's lots of different reasons why people go vegan, but one of the main reasons is that it's good for the environment, because when you go vegan, you don't rely on animal products, so there is less of a need to have cows in farms and slaughter them. A lot of people are vegan because they don't like the way the animals are treated. Even if you're just getting milk from the cow, a lot of cows live in very horrendous conditions just so that we can get the milk from them. There's a lot of different reasons. Some people are vegan for religious reasons. It's a free world. We can do whatever we want as long as you're not hurting anyone else. Great. Yeah, so another thing on the main is fried chicken with mashed potato. For dessert, Jane and her friends are having chocolate cake as well as almond cookies. Nice, fun stuff. Now, Adam, Jane's friend, offered to buy the ingredients from the supermarket. So, there are a few people watching right now. If we can go through this exercise using these words, you could type out the answers in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll just go through them together. So this is a conversation between Jane and Adam. Jane said, "Thank you for the offer, Adam. Blank, you please get us some potatoes and tomatoes." So Jane's asking Adam if it's possible for him to get potatoes and tomatoes for the cooking session that they're having that night. So how would Jane ask Adam what would she use? I'll just wait a few seconds, but otherwise I'll just answer the question. So in this in this situation, when Jane is asking if it's possible, she's asking for help. Um, she could say, "Can you please get us some potatoes and tomatoes?" She could also say, "Could you please get us some potatoes and tomatoes?" So if you go back to Bishoy's lesson on Unit 30, he explains the use of can and could, but for now, we'll just say, can you please get us some potatoes and tomatoes? So Adam replied, yes, I am able to, because he said yes. I also head to the baking store if I have time. So Adam mentions that it's no problem for him to get the potatoes and tomatoes. So yes, I, something. But Adam also adds that there is a chance that he would head to the baking store if he has the time. So there's a chance, there's a possibility here. He's not 100% certain. So what would we use? What would Adam say? I realize I'm gonna have to wait a little bit if I want people to answer because it lags. Right. So Adam would say, yes, I can. Because he's able to go and get the potatoes and tomatoes that Jane needs. So there is a possibility that Adam will head to the baking store only if he has time. So I might also head to the baking store if I have time. Head does mean head, but in this context, head means go to. So if I say I'm heading to the library, that means I'm going to the library. In this context, Adam said, I might also head to the baking store, means I might also go to the baking store. So if I put this, go to the baking store, or visit the baking store, means the same thing, if he has the time. Do we need anything from there? Adam asks. Jane says, oh yes. You get us a bag of flour. So, again, she's asking Adam if it's possible for him to get them a bag of flour. Flour. I say flour again. Some people say flour. I think it's just an American British thing. So here, she could say, could you get us a bag of flour? Because he might head to the baking store. It's not completely certain that he will. So Jane is asking him to get a bag of flour if he does. So could you get us a bag of flour? Flour. Adam said, sure, no problem. I'll be back in an hour. Great. Meanwhile, Jane and Mia are chatting about Mia's experience in cooking. Jane said, I don't have a lot of experience with cooking. I've only recently started learning a few recipes online, but I enjoy it very much. Mia replies, let me try and make this bigger. Okay, that's nice. I bake very well in the past, but not so much now. So in the past, so Mia's saying that in the past she had the ability to bake very well. How would she say that using, let me get these words down here. Okay, so using these words, how would Mia describe the fact that in the past she baked very well, but not so much now? So Mia would say, I could bake very well in the past. In this sentence, because she's referring to the past, to show her ability, she would say could, because could is the past tense of can. So when we want to say can, ability, I can, in the past we say could. So I could bake very well in the past, but not so much now. Adam bakes very well. Jane said, yes, Adam is an excellent baker. I'm to start preparing the ingredients for the salad now. So Jane is trying to refer to the fact that now she's she shall, or she will start preparing the ingredients for the salad. So how would she say that with these words here? What can we fill in this blank with? I'm going to start preparing the ingredients for the salad now. So when she says I'm going to, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to a different place to do it. When she says I'm going to start preparing the ingredients for the salad now, it means I will now start this process. This is what I'm going to do now. So if I say once this live stream ends, I'm going to read a book, that means I will read a book once this live stream ends. I'm going to start preparing the ingredients for the salad now. And then Mia replies, I will start preparing the chicken, and then I, blank, start boiling the pasta if Adam still hasn't arrived yet. So there's an if here, which makes the situation conditional. So Mia's trying to say that she will start preparing the chicken now, and then once she's done that, if Adam still hasn't arrived yet, so if he hasn't come back yet, she will start boiling the pasta. So she'll only start boiling the pasta on the condition that Adam still hasn't returned. So I might, the same way we use might when Adam mentioned going to the baking store if he had the time. Mia, it's the same situation here, so Mia might start boiling the pasta if Adam still hasn't arrived yet. That was a simple exercise, and in case you're interested, these were units 26, 29, and 30 from the English grammar class on the weekends, so the Saturday and Sunday grammar classes. I just thought it would be very cool to have this short little revision here. So today we spoke about cooking, we spoke about the different meals that we have, the different types of food that you can have, and what meal prepping is and why we do it. We spoke about recipes, what they look like, what they tell you, why we follow a recipe, where you can get them from. Ooh, I didn't mention these are some of the famous chefs that you might be familiar with: Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver, and Nigella Lawson. She's a personal favorite of mine. We spoke about the differences between being a chef and being a cook. There's not a lot, but basically a chef has the professional experience and the professional qualification to be cooking because of culinary school. So this is what a recipe looks like. We spoke about ingredients. What are they? Where you get them from? You could get them from the supermarket, basically. The different types of ingredients you would need depends on what kind of meal you're trying to make, what kind of food you're trying to make. The different utensils that you would use and how different people use different utensils depending on what they're trying to make, or the level of cooking experience they have. We went through a few of those. The differences between cooking and baking generally is the fact that with cooking you use direct heat, you use a stove, and you are really in charge of what goes on and you have control over what goes on with your cooking. But with baking, it's kind of like making sure that you have the temperature right, the settings right in the oven, and just placing the bread dough or the cake batter, the cookie dough inside the oven for them to bake. And then we went through this little exercise with Jane and the fact that she's preparing meal. So again, we used, I'll just put these down here, units 26, 29, and 30 from the Essential Grammar book, or the Grammar English Lessons, Saturday and Sunday. Right, so there's no questions, so I will just end the live stream here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please give us any feedback if you have in regards to this type of teaching, if you prefer this or if you just prefer straight face-to-face live streams. not face-to-face, just direct live stream. We can't do face-to-face classes now. I hope everyone's staying safe, staying indoors, and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.